I could not disagree more with this headline, and so I thought we'd go over it today. But what it really illustrates to me is that we are in the middle of this revolution in gaming. And I don't think a lot of people are realizing it yet. I don't think a lot of people are seeing it yet. Xbox is turning the tables on console wars. They're focusing all in on Game Pass. And this move is not just changing the game. It's rewriting the rules of how we play. It's rewriting the rules of how things are traditionally done. And we get headlines like this. Here's why Xbox should ditch exclusives. What's interesting is reading through this article, this headline could also be why PlayStation should ditch exclusives. Yet it's targeted at Xbox, which I think is fascinating here. Now, I don't know the deputy editor over here at Trusted Reviews. I mean, he seems like a good writer. He's definitely a better writer than I could ever be. But you'll see. We'll go through this. Let's go through this. And then I do want to ask a few questions here. The questions that came up as I was going through this is, how does Xbox focus on Game Pass instead of console wars reflect the changing dynamics of the gaming industry? Hint, it's everything in my mind. What implications are there for gamers and developers with Xbox shifts towards subscription-based model? Hint, there's a lot. And finally, can Xbox redefine the gaming market successfully with Game Pass? That's the question that we're waiting for an answer on. If they're able to do it, then gaming as we know it is changed forever. It's not like this just popped up and this is just a theory and that there's nothing to go behind it. Hint, they're doing it. I think we're in the midst of them doing it. And I think a lot of people just don't realize that at the moment. Anyways, here's this headline. Here's why Xbox should ditch exclusives from Trusted Reviews. Let's go through. I highlighted some. He basically goes through in this article. In fact, here's his opinion. He puts it up top here. Xbox has faced consistent criticism, from myself included, for its lack of exclusives compared to PlayStation, and is likely the core reason why the PS5 is reportedly outselling the Xbox Series by such a large margin. He then goes on to say that Xbox, as a result, basically what he says is PlayStation has these first-party exclusives, and they cost hundreds of millions of dollars to make. It's risky for Xbox to spend that kind of money on first-party games at such a high quality. For instance, Spider-Man 2, God of War, Naughty Dog titles, etc., etc. And so instead, they should not focus. He basically says they should get out of the console game altogether. Like that seems to be. I actually don't know what his opinion is here, because if we go down to the end, we all know. I just said it at the beginning. Xbox has shifted the game here. They're not focused on console wars. Phil Spencer has said this. They're focused on Game Pass. And let's start at the beginning. The conclusion here in this article is, admittedly, making Xbox games multi-platform would probably see a further decline to Xbox console sales, but does that really matter? The age of consoles is slowly coming to an end, and it's definitely time for Xbox to focus all of its attention on Game Pass. Then why did we write this article? Again, this article could be rewritten to say PlayStation 5 should ditch exclusives. Here's why. But it's not. Okay, here's what he says. I, for one, can say that the main reason I purchased the PS5 over the Xbox Series X was so that I can play games like with the likes of Marvel, Spider-Man, God. Hold on, let me adjust this. I feel like we're off. There we go. My bad. Okay. I, for one, can say that the main reason I purchased the PS5 over the Xbox Series X was so I can play the likes of Marvel, Spider-Man, God of War, and the next Naughty Dog project on the first day of release, as these are some of the highest rated game franchises of the last few years. As many people as, no disagreement there. Everybody, lots of people have done that. They well-deserved. Well-deserved. He goes on to say, Microsoft has hit back with their acquisitions of Bethesda, Activision, blah, blah, blah. However, that doesn't seem to work. It looks like Xbox hardware sales fell 15% from 2022 to 2023, where PS5 sales grew by a whopping 65% that period. Now, it's a little bit tricky. He's not doing this. I'm just saying it's easy to read this as Xbox is declining. Xbox is up overall. It's just a decline from the previous year. They're still selling more than they've ever sold before. What is impressive is PlayStation 5 sales grew by a whopping 65% in the same period. Absolutely impressive, of course. So how can Xbox close the gap? he answers. He says the most obvious answer is to simply improve the quality of its first-party games, but that's easier said than done. Sony was devastated by a leak in December with private company data and personal file leaks to the public. Forbes reports that details on the budget of Marvel's Spider-Man 2 were revealed through this leak, totaling up to a jaw-dropping $300 million. This means that the latest Spider-Man game from Sony was even more expensive to make than any of the past Spider-Man movies. Makes sense? It also does more in sales than any of the Spider-Man movies as well. So there is that. But no doubt, it's jaw-dropping. This is the one thing that Phil Spencer has talked about with these AAA studios and games. It's unsustainable. It's why we haven't seen risk-taking at the levels that we saw in past generations, especially from AAA studios. They have to be all in on getting an IP, Spider-Man, Star Wars, that they know is going to sell. And they're more risk averse. Now, Phil Spencer has addressed this, and I agree with him. I agree with the logic, at least here, that Game Pass negates that risk. Game Pass opens it up and says, hey, you don't need to worry about getting players to your games. You can take risk again because there's an audience here on Game Pass. Even if you don't have, a little game from a big publisher will succeed. A little game from a little publisher can succeed on Game Pass. Equally the same, so it negates some of that risk. So here's what this article says. If Xbox intends to seriously compete with Sony's first-party offering, then you'd argue it will need to put its money where its mouth is and match these sky-high budgets. But then again, is that really sustainable? They just spent billions and billions of dollars on it. So they're one of the richest companies in the world. They just spent billions and billions of dollars. I think it is because there's a ceiling on hardware. That's why even there's a book. What is that book called? Console Wars. There's a book in Console Wars. And even back then, what really stood out to me during that. So Console Wars is a book that goes over Nintendo and Sega and the battles of the time. And even then, software is where they made their money. Not on hardware. Games are where they made their money, not on the console. And so, yeah, it is sustainable to spend a ton of money on a first-party title in a Game Pass ecosystem where you're trying to get to subscribers. There's a ceiling on consoles. There are manufacturing limitations. There are geography limitations. There's regulations with hardware. With software, everybody's got a phone in their pocket. Everybody's got access to a television. Eventually, the idea here with Game Pass is that they are everywhere. Remember, cloud gaming goes hand in hand with Game Pass. Now, no doubt cloud gaming is not there. I've been trying to cloud game all holiday break, experimented with it, played with it. Some of it works really well. Sometimes it doesn't. It's just not there. But Game Pass is the future. And Game Pass, they are willing to spend all this money to get these studios to make these first-party titles at a huge expense to them because that ceiling no longer exists. That ceiling's now, Phil Spencer said that we want 1 billion people, 1 billion gamers playing our games. That's why mobile games make so much money because your audience is so much larger than it is with consoles. Xbox is no longer in the console wars. I mean, we just have to accept that. And this is part of the change that I think has passed a lot of people by and why we get articles like this. This is a bargain for gamers. Oh, here we go. In a bid to recoup all that money spent on production, Sony now charges $70 for first-party games because there's a ceiling to hardware, again, such as Marvel Spider-Man 2 at launch. Meanwhile, Microsoft has committed itself to launching every first-party game on its Game Pass subscription service from day one, which only costs $10.99 per month for access to hundreds of games. This is a bargain for gamers, he says, but consequently means investing a lot of money on a single first-party game is a huge risk for Microsoft unless it's able to increase the subscription count for its Game Pass service tenfold. That's the goal here. Of course, that's what they want to do. That's why they got Call of Duty, one of the top games in the entire world with one of the largest audiences. Hey, you can pay $60, $70 for it, whatnot, or you can come subscribe to it on Game Pass and get it. Keep in mind, it's why Game Pass is for free or Game Pass exists on PC because you've opened yourself up to a huge market there. All that matters is subscriptions for Microsoft. That's all that matters. They're playing the subscription game. Will they be successful? We'll wait and see. But I don't think it's the risk that he states it is here for Microsoft in this realm. Is it a risk in the console realm? 100%, absolutely. Is it a risk in this realm? No, it's a strategy. And I think it's the right strategy, obviously, or else I wouldn't be talking about it. Here's where I think this article could be named Sony should stop making first-party games because he starts to talk about Game Pass. They sold over 21 million, blah, blah, blah. Sony has over 50 million of PS5, blah, blah, blah. Even Sony has acknowledged that its console user base can be restrictive when attempting to turn a profit and has so resorted to porting its first-party games over to PC. But that's not in order to generate more sales. That's not why they did it, though. They were forced to do that because Xbox was doing that. That's why. Xbox already shares its first-party library with PC, but by launching the likes of Starfield as a console exclusive, it's missing out on potential sales of PS5 owners. But you could say the same thing about PlayStation for it. Like, what kills me is this logic could go both ways. Like, I get what he's saying here is because Xbox is losing the console wars, but his premise is incorrect in the first place, in that Xbox is no longer in the console wars, which he admits down here at the end paragraph. The age of consoles is coming to an end, slowly coming to an end. No, I think it's rapidly coming to an end, but he admits that. And so I just find this, I find holes in this logic. So Xbox has been forced into a difficult position. I don't think they have, guys. It would take a 20-month subscription of Game Pass in order for your expenditure to hit that same figure. No, the math is there on subscription, right? I mean, subscription services took out Blockbuster. Subscription services took out Hollywood Video. Subscription services dropping today. Blockbusters no longer have physical media in their stores. Remember when you used to go to Blockbuster and you used to get CD? The whole store was CDs and DVDs. Not Blockbuster, Best Buy. And the whole store was CDs and DVDs. Like, that was most of the floor space because that's how much a lot of people went there. I would go there just for CDs, just for DVDs and Blu-rays and video games and PC games. That's what I went there for. No more. You don't go there for that anymore because subscription-based services have taken over music, it's taken over movies, and it's about to take over gaming. Xbox is right here. This strategy, it's why I believe this strategy is correct. We consume every other medium of media in this way. It only makes sense that Xbox, not Xbox, but that games should be consumed in this manner as well. So, should Xbox be done with exclusives? No, they shouldn't. In fact, exclusives is what is going to get people. It's why Netflix has Stranger Things. It's why Netflix has The Witcher. It's why Disney has all of their things exclusive on their platform. It's the draw. It's one of the draws. It's not the only draw. The other draw is diversity of games as well. But it does matter. It's why they wouldn't spend billions of dollars to ditch exclusives. Doesn't make any sense there. So there you go. Let me know what you think. Am I misreading this? Am I reading too much into this? Am I right? Am I wrong? Go read this article. Go check it out. Trustedreviews.com. Or you can just Google search, here's why Xbox should ditch exclusives. Let me know what I may be missing here. So let's go over some questions. The reason I wanted to do this article is because it did remind me, though, that we are in this transitionary period, and I'm not sure a lot of people recognize that yet. I think Xbox and those of us who believe in the vision of Game Pass, at least right now, as presented to us, are 5 years ahead of everybody else. I just think we are. That's it. Remember the joke that Game Pass was? There's no way. This can't make money. This is going to be ridiculous. I remember watching streams in 2019. We're in 2024 now, guys, of people saying that. Maybe not 2019. Maybe it was 2020. Okay, we're 4 years ahead. All right, how does Xbox focus on Game Pass instead of console wars reflect the changing dynamics of the gaming industry? I think it reflects the changing dynamics of technology. Never before has technology existed to make this possible. This is now possible. Xbox is doing it. Xbox has the money to do it, and the ability, the library, and especially now with Activision Blizzard in there, to do it as well. I think it changes everything in the gaming industry. I think it's why Xbox, Phil Spencer said a few years ago, and I've said this before, if you watch this channel, you know this quote by heart now. It's more of a paraphrase. Their competition is not, they don't view PlayStation or Nintendo as their competition. They view Amazon and Google as their competition. They view Apple as their competition. Apple has a gaming subscription service, Apple Arcade. Amazon is jumping into the gaming shtick. They have the infrastructure. with AWS and their server structure. They're the number one server provider on the planet. Cloud gaming is going to be big. Cloud gaming is going to be huge. Google tried to jump in with Google Stadia, wasn't a success, but Google's by no means out as well. Google has Android, a huge gaming platform for mobile games. So yeah, I think it just represents the technology shift largely, and then the way that we consume our media now. And I think this point of view is honestly outdated. What are the implications for gamers and developers with Xbox shifts towards a subscription-based model? Once again, I think that high risk for these big-time games by AAA developers is greatly diminished. I think that that's correct. And it's diminished because on a platform, in the same way that the risk on a mobile platform is diminished because you already have people, you have a built-in audience there. So I think that's for developers anyways. I think that risk is diminished. I think we're going to see a lot of new independent games come up through the ranks over the next few years, in the same way, 360 showed us some big indie developers pop up. Steam brought some big indie developers up, some newcomers to the space. I think Game Pass is going to bring the same thing. There's a big incentive there now. You've knocked down some walls and some barriers to entry there, I believe, with Game Pass. Can Xbox redefine gaming market and set new standards with its Game Pass-centric strategy? Can they? Yes. Will they? I think that's a better question. It's yet to be seen. It's not that it's yet to be seen. We're not there yet. I think we're in process of that. I think the success of Game Pass so far is yes. Here's the thing. It does take a big company with something like this, a big company like Microsoft, to go all in to give people confidence in this kind of shift. And I think Microsoft, obviously, with all their money, is able to do it. It's very interesting. But yes, I do think they can set new standards. I think we're in the midst of that. I mean, I think we've already seen that. Prior to the Xbox One generation, it was a question mark. Do I not want physical copies of my games? Well, wait a minute. I do. I was one of the ones that's saying that. Yes, I do. I can trade it in. It's more valuable to me. There's a collector's aspect to it. Absolutely, I want a physical copy. It's mine. 10 years later, nope, don't care. Don't want it. This is the new norm. And so I think we're going to see that with subscription-based gaming as well. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. Guys, if you like this video, if you like hanging out and talking games, talking about articles like this, shout out to Ryan Jones, by the way. I'm sure he's a fantastic writer. And I think he does nail it. I think he does nail it. My problem with this article is you could name it why PS5 should stop developing first-party games. Because the reasoning works both ways here. I understand what he's saying because Xbox is behind, but again, he nails it here with his last statement. I think he does understand it. The age of consoles is slowly coming to an end. And it's finally time for Xbox to focus all of its attention on Game Pass. I think maybe the difference we have here is I think part of that focus is first-party titles. And maybe he would disagree with that. And I don't think it's as big of a risk there. But interesting article. Just made me think about this. Love to know what you guys think. Let me know in the comments below. Hit that like button, subscribe to this channel. I'm X1 the Gamer. We drop videos here just like this every single day, Monday through Friday. So every single weekday. Is that a technicality? Isn't that semantics? Do I need to say that every time? I don't know. I think I do. You'd be surprised. People on the internet take you literally. Literally, they take you literally. Like, subscribe. Love you guys. See you next time. Bye-bye.